Lagos glittered beautifully at night. From the balcony of a cramped two-bedroom apartment in Surulere, Amara Okoye stared at the skyline like it was something she deserved but had been denied. Traffic lights blinked endlessly below. Generators hummed like distant thunder. The air carried heat and ambition in equal measure. Her cracked phone screen illuminated her face. On Instagram, her university friends Zena and Belinda were live again. Champagne glasses touched softly under chandelier lights. A rooftop infinity pool reflected the city glow. Designer heels flashed against polished marble. A Bentley door opened slowly, as if it knew it was being watched. The caption read, "Soft life or nothing." Amara zoomed in on every detail. Gold watch, diamond necklace, private chef in the background. These were the same girls who once borrowed her lecture notes, the same girls who used to complain about transport fare. Now they were flying to Dubai on weekdays. Meanwhile, her rent was overdue. Her job applications had gone unanswered for months. Her mother's blood pressure medication was nearly finished. Something didn't add up. But envy has a way of silencing suspicion. Her phone buzzed. A message from Zena. "Are you ready to change your life?" Amara stared at the skyline again. This time, she didn't look away. And that was where everything began. The mansion in Lekki Phase 1 didn't feel real. The gate opened silently. The driveway curved like something from a foreign movie. Security cameras rotated with mechanical precision. Inside, the air smelled expensive. Crystal chandeliers, Italian marble, soft jazz playing at just the right volume. The men inside were not loud. They didn't shout to prove wealth. Their confidence was quiet, dangerous. Politicians, oil executives, foreign investors, men whose names appeared in newspapers, but whose secrets never did. Gina hugged her warmly, but there was something calculated in her smile. Belinda's movements were slow and deliberate, like someone who had mastered performance. Amara noticed something that unsettled her. Every girl in the room was young. Every man was significantly older. Then she felt it. A gaze. Across the room stood a silver-haired man with a faint scar across his cheek. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were sharp, observing, assessing. He didn't smile widely. He didn't wave. He simply watched her. And when he finally approached, the atmosphere shifted slightly, subtle but unmistakable. His name was Chief Adebayo Martins. By the end of the night, Amara understood something clearly. This was not just a party. It was a marketplace. And she had just been displayed. The truth unfolded slowly, not in one dramatic confession, but in pieces. Private conversations upstairs, doors closing softly, laughter downstairs fading into silence. Zena and Belinda did not work regular jobs. They provided high-level companionship to powerful men. But companionship was only the surface. Beneath charity galas and luxury trips lay something far more structured. Shipments, routes, private flights that were never inspected. Cocaine moved through influence, through political protection, through wealth that bent systems quietly. And women were the gateway. They gained access to spaces men alone could not. They distracted security details, carried diplomatic luggage, redirected attention at critical moments. It was strategic, organized, international. Amara's stomach tightened as she absorbed it. This was not accidental wealth. This was a machine, and she was being invited to join it. She should have walked away. She knew she should have, but when she imagined returning to Surulere, returning to rejection emails and unpaid bills, she hesitated. Hesitation became agreement, and agreement became initiation. The transformation was swift. Within weeks, Amara moved into a high-rise apartment overlooking the Atlantic. Her wardrobe changed, her posture changed, even her walk changed. Zena trained her in subtle psychology, how to hold eye contact long enough to build trust, but not intimidation, how to laugh without surrendering control, how to ask questions that sounded harmless but extracted valuable information. Belinda taught her negotiation tactics, never appeared desperate, always let powerful men feel in control while subtly steering outcomes. Amara learned quickly. Her first major assignment came during a charity gala. She wore emerald silk and diamonds that were not hers. Inside her clutch was not lipstick. It was a flash drive containing encrypted shipment routes. Her role was simple: keep a foreign investor occupied for exactly 7 minutes while a private office upstairs was accessed. 7 minutes. She smiled, she laughed, she maintained eye contact. And when she left that event, she understood something chilling. The system worked because people like her made it work. That night, she didn't sleep, but the next morning, she checked her bank account. The transfer was enough to silence doubt. For a while. Expansion came next. The organization needed fresh faces, young girls, university students, ambitious but financially strained. Amara was told to build her own circle. That was the moment something inside her cracked. Yet, she proceeded. She found Tosin, 19 years old, studying accounting, intelligent, hopeful, hungry for success. Amara invited her to a networking event. She left out the yachts, left out the powder, left out the risk. When Tosin agreed excitedly, Amara felt a brief flicker of guilt. But guilt fades quickly in the presence of luxury, and luxury was addictive. Months passed, money flowed, travel increased, parties became more private. Then one night, Belinda didn't show up. Her phone was unreachable. Zena dismissed it casually, but Chief Martin seemed tense. 2 weeks later, a brief news report mentioned a woman found near the Apapa warehouse district. Identity withheld, but the bracelet on the wrist shone briefly in the footage. Amara recognized it. Gold, emerald stone, Belinda's favorite. The realization settled heavily in her chest. No dramatic announcement, no funeral, just silence and continuation. The parties resumed, the shipments continued, the machine did not pause for grief. That was when Amara truly understood. No one was irreplaceable, not even her. The raid happened unexpectedly. A yacht celebration off Victoria Island, music playing softly, sunset painting the water gold. Then helicopters, sirens, armed officers stormed the dock with precision. Chaos erupted. Men who once appeared untouchable began running. Devices were destroyed, documents thrown into the ocean. Gunshots echoed across the marina. Real gunshots. Zena sprinted toward a speedboat. For 1 second, their eyes met. Then she disappeared into darkness. Amara was forced to the ground, cold metal cuffs locked around her wrists. The ocean that once symbolized wealth now looked endless and merciless. And for the first time since entering this world, she felt powerless. Interrogation lasted for days, but something unexpected emerged. The officers were not confused. They already knew everything. Hidden recordings, encrypted chats, financial trails. Then they showed her footage that shattered her completely. Zena had been meeting federal agents for months. She had been cooperating quietly. Belinda's death had not been random. It had been internal suspicion. The empire had been collapsing from within, and Amara had never seen it. She had not been rising, she had been positioned, used. When the deal was offered, it came calmly. immunity in exchange for testimony, protection in exchange for truth, refuse and face decades in prison, accept and risk retaliation from powerful enemies. She thought about Tosin, about her mother, about Belinda's bracelet, and she chose. The courtroom proceedings shook Lagos's elite quietly but deeply. Politicians denied everything. Executives claimed ignorance. Chief Adebayo Martins remained composed until Amara took the stand. She spoke clearly about yachts, about shipment routes hidden inside luxury travel, about recruitment strategies targeting vulnerable young women. Gasps rippled through the room. The image of untouchable power began to crack. The system did not fall overnight, but it fractured publicly, and once cracks appear in glass, they never disappear. Months later, Amara stood on a quiet balcony in a coastal town far from Lagos. No marble floors, no chandeliers, no champagne. Just wind and the sound of waves. She worked remotely now, simple income, honest work. Peace felt unfamiliar at first. One evening, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. Silence. Then a single sentence. You can't erase what you were. The line disconnected. She stared at the ocean for a long time. Was it a threat, a reminder, or simply guilt echoing back at her? She didn't know. The ocean had never sounded threatening before. But after that phone call, every wave felt like a warning. You can't erase what you were. The voice had been calm, controlled, almost amused. Amara stood on the balcony long after the line went dead. The quiet coastal town she had relocated to was meant to be safe, anonymous, boring. Safe had never felt so fragile. For months after the trial, she had followed the rules of witness protection. New identity, limited contacts, no social media, no travel without clearance. But safety is only as strong as the people enforcing it, and powerful men do not forget. At first, the signs were subtle. A black SUV parked across her street for 2 consecutive nights. A delivery package addressed to her old name, Amara Okoye. A newspaper slid under her door with one headline circled in red ink. Chief Martin's associates released on technical grounds. She felt her stomach tighten. Released. That meant they were free. That meant someone still had resources. That meant someone still had motive. Sleep became impossible. Every creak in the apartment sounded intentional. Every stranger's glance lingered too long. She reported the incidents to her assigned federal liaison, but the response was routine. Probably paranoia. Probably coincidence. Probably stress. But Amara knew the difference between anxiety and instinct, and her instincts were screaming. Then Tosin called. The name appearing on her hidden emergency phone nearly stopped her heart. Tosin was not supposed to contact her. That number was for emergencies only. Amara answered. The connection crackled. Tosin's breathing was uneven. She had left the life months ago after the arrests, but apparently the life had not left her. Men were asking questions. Strangers were offering money for information. Someone had followed her from campus. Someone knew she had once been close to Amara. The past was not buried. It was hunting. 3 days later, Tosin disappeared. No social media activity, no class attendance. Her dorm room was found unlocked, belongings untouched. The police called it voluntary absence. Amara knew better. This was retaliation, not random, not coincidence, systematic. The empire had fractured, but fragments are sharp. That was when Amara did something reckless. She traveled back to Lagos. Without authorization, without notifying protection services. If someone was targeting former recruits, she needed answers from the source. Lagos hadn't changed. Still loud, still glittering, still deceptive. But something else had changed. The parties were quieter, the yachts less visible. The mansion in Lekki had new security and new faces. The machine hadn't died. It had evolved. Through careful observation, Amada uncovered something chilling. Chief Martins had not been the top. He was a layer. Above him was a silent consortium of businessmen and political financiers who never attended parties, never touched product, never appeared in photos. They had sacrificed him publicly to protect the structure, and now they were cleaning up. Loose ends, former recruits, anyone who knew too much, anyone who testified, anyone who survived. The black SUV returned, this time in Lagos. She was being tracked, but instead of running, Amada began tracking back. Using what she had learned during her time inside the operation, she followed financial trails, charity foundations, shell companies, real estate investments across Victoria Island and Banana Island. The same patterns, the same laundering strategy, just rebranded. Golden masks had changed faces, but it was still breathing. Then came the second call, not from a blocked number, from Zena. The name flashed across her screen like a ghost rising from water. Zena had never testified. She had disappeared the night of the raid. Rumors claimed she had been relocated abroad under special immunity. But the call was coming from Lagos, and the message she left was simple. You were never the target. You were the distraction. That sentence rewrote everything. If Amada had been the distraction, then what had been the real objective during the raid? She began connecting timelines. The night of the yacht raid coincided with a massive financial transfer through offshore accounts. While authorities focused on arrests and public scandal, billions had quietly shifted hands. The raid was theater, and she was part of the script. The truth hit harder than betrayal. She had helped dismantle one layer of corruption, but the foundation remained untouched. And now the foundation saw her as a liability again. Tosin's disappearance was not revenge. It was leverage. Amara received a final anonymous package at her temporary Lagos apartment. Inside, a flash drive and Tosin's bracelet. The same bracelet Tosin had worn to her first networking event. No note, no instructions, just a message without words. Play the file. She hesitated for a full minute before inserting the drive into a secure laptop. The footage loaded slowly. It showed a private boardroom. 5 men seated around a long, polished table. Chief Martin's name was mentioned, not with respect, but irritation. He had been too visible, too emotional, too attached to the girls. Then came the sentence that froze her blood. Dispose of the smaller assets. Send a message. Smaller assets. Girls like Tosin. Girls like her. The recording ended abruptly. Metadata showed it had been filmed 2 weeks ago. Recent. Very recent. Amara realized something terrifying. Zena had sent it, which meant Zena was still inside. Not as a victim, not as an informant, but as something else. A survivor who adapted faster than anyone. The question was no longer about survival. It was about exposure. If she leaked the footage publicly, it would cause national outrage. But outrage fades, and powerful men recover. If she handed it to authorities quietly, it might disappear like previous evidence. She needed something irreversible, something that could not be buried. So she contacted an investigative journalist known for refusing bribes, a man whose career had survived threats before. She sent copies of everything: financial trails, video footage, hidden accounts, names, dates, routes. And then she waited. The exposé exploded across national headlines. International media picked it up within days. The consortium was no longer a rumor, it had faces. Shareholders began pulling investments, political alliances fractured. Arrests began again. this time higher up, much higher. But victory did not feel triumphant, because Tosin was still missing, and Xena was still silent. One final message arrived. Unknown sender. Just coordinates. Amara followed them to an abandoned construction site near Epee. There were no dramatic confrontations, no shouting, just evidence. A shallow grave that had already been reported anonymously to authorities. Tosin had been found earlier that day, alive, weak, drugged but breathing. She had been kept as leverage, nothing more, disposable, but not discarded. Amara felt something shift inside her permanently. Not fear, not envy, not ambition, resolve. Weeks later, as arrests continued and investigations widened, Amara stood once again on a balcony, this time in Lagos, not as a spectator, not as a pawn, but as someone who understood the machinery. The skyline still glittered, but she no longer saw diamonds. She saw networks, power structures, masks. Her phone remained silent now. No more threats, no more whispers, because the people who once hid behind chandeliers were now exposed under courtroom lights. For now. But Lagos never truly empties its shadows. It simply reshapes them. One question lingers. If Golden Masks was only one network, how many others are still smiling at rooftop parties tonight?